The following episode is brought to you by Cineo Lighting, the highest quality LED lighting systems available for motion picture, television, and photography industries. Find out more at cineolighting.com. You're listening to Filmmakers Drinking Bourbon. Hey, what's up, Internet? This is Brandon.
And this is Alex.
And we're filmmakers.
And we're also drinking bourbon.
Yeah, we are, buddy.
Finally.
Cheers.
Cheers to this.
Nice. Smells tasty.
Looks good. Delicious.
Ooh,
what is this?
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, our good friends over at 1792 sent us the small batch Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. This stuff is great. Here's some fun facts. Named in honor of the year Kentucky joined the United States, 1792. Small batch bourbon is made from a marriage of a few select barrels, carefully chosen by the master distiller. I mean,
yeah,
it's what we would like to call
it's a fine bourbon.
Brash and bold, yet smooth and balanced.
I dig it, man.
So if you're out there listening and you are wanting to check out your next bourbon, make sure you pick up the 1792 and drink along with us. This is good stuff.
It's got a nice gold cap. Looks good.
So we're excited about that. How you been, buddy?
It's been a while, man.
Wow.
We did the whole NAB Vegas thing and haven't seen you, really.
We have been on hiatus.
Kind of.
So last week we told everybody to check out the Adobe show.
Yeah.
We got to do an exclusive interview with Al Mooney from Adobe.
We did.
Which
It was
Awesome.
fantastic.
He gave us some insight into new tweaks.
Yep.
And we've just been gearing up for this month, which is May. And May, this is exciting stuff. We told people, what we promised the listeners, we're going to NAB, we're coming back, and we're bringing you great content, great guests, great giveaways.
Yeah, and we have our first one.
Yeah,
right?
Did you hear the intro?
We did.
Everyone
heard it.
Episode. Everyone did hear it.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Cineo Lighting Systems.
Yep.
And they were one of the great partners we met at NAB, and we really liked their product. They make some really cool products.
It's good. Remote phosphor lighting.
Yeah, it's
really
quality
cool
stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff does not mess around.
No, I use their stuff a lot. It's really good color rendition.
Yeah. So. They do really well with, like, if you're lighting like females. You know, got this nice sort of.
But that's it. Yeah,
no,
for males,
not that. You
males, it's horrible.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely terrible. Yeah.
You can later on. You can explain why that might be, but they have great stuff, and they said that they would love to support the show. So
what are they doing for us?
Well, here's the thing. They are our partner for May.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be talking about their products. We're going to have them on the show. We're going to do an interview. We're going to learn more about them. Mm-hmm. What they are going to do for the listeners, not for us, but for the listeners, is they are going to give away our first big FDB giveaway since we revamped.
What is it?
And you can enter all month long, the whole month of May, to enter.
It's like a single phosphor panel.
They're going to give away the little matchstick light kit.
Yeah, the on-camera or mountable light, right?
Yes, it's pretty cool.
It's 5-6 inches long.
Yeah, it's like around $500.
Yeah,
like this
That's a solid giveaway.
No toy here.
No.
So if you are interested, you definitely want to get in on that. You want to tweet to
at FDB Podcast.
Yes, and at Cineo Lighting, I think.
At Cineo Lighting, yeah. Let's
Hashtag
check that out and make sure.
FTB giveaway.
FDB.
FDB, not TB.
Yeah, giveaway. So if you do all those three things, you'll be entered to win. And at the end of the month, we'll draw one lucky listener. So it's not like last time where you had 1 week to enter. Now you got a full month.
Yeah.
So yeah, at Cineo Lighting, and that's CINEO.
Correct.
Cineo.
So we're super excited. We know the listeners are going to be excited, and
dude, I'm excited. I want it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
We can't get it.
No,
it's like those McDonald's things.
Exactly.
Where if you're part of the company, you can't have it.
So it's going to be a fun show. I mean, it's already kicking off great. We got 1792. Cineo is partnering with us. We're giving away this awesome light.
We didn't tell them what May was. We got a theme now.
May is going to be fun.
We got a theme. What's our theme?
Well, this month is all about production cities.
Yeah.
We put out a tweet earlier. Mm-hmm. What is the best production city? Chicago, L.A., New York, or other?
Who won?
And as of right now, Los Angeles is in the lead with 40%.
Makes sense.
40%. LA's in lead, followed by Chicago.
Whoa.
Followed by New York.
Man, but
sorry,
don't you,
sorry. Followed by other. Other got more votes than New York.
Ooh.
Can you believe that?
Hey, speaking of New York,
Yeah.
you got a little surprise for us.
That's
don't
right.
you?
Every show this month, we got somebody from that city.
Mm-hmm.
And this week, we're talking about the Big Apple, New York, New York.
Wow.
And I've got a director of photography
Mm-hmm.
that I typically shoot with when I'm in New York. And he's got a great network and some guys that we've worked with again and again. And I love this man.
Is he calling in?
We're calling him.
Oh, we're calling him.
Yeah. And he is actually an Australian. He's an
Nice.
Australian, because no one in New York is from New York.
No.
Okay. So let's dial it up. Let's see if we can get a hold of him. I'll try his New York number, not his Australia number.
All right, go for it.
Boop, 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 boop. Angus, you there?
I am here. How are you?
Angus.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, Alex. I'm good. How are you?
We are good. So those of you listening, this is Mr. Angus Oborn. Angus, tell us a little bit about yourself, buddy. How in the hell do you know us? And how do people know you? What do you do? Why are you here?
Well, I know you because you called me at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning in a panic about 4 years ago, needing something shot on the Monday.
Wow.
And I made it happen, and we've been friends ever since.
That's right, buddy.
A fixer.
It might have been 6 o'clock. It was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm an Australian living in New York, which I'm now very sad to hear is ranked below other in production cities, which I'll do my best to rectify.
Yes.
I'm a trained photographer, and I've worked as a stills guy for 15 plus years, and then saw the light and realized that moving pictures was much more fun. And here I am. I guess I made that change about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I guess I still shoot the odd stills job, but I enjoy this stuff much more.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think maybe I fall into the category of like an early adapter for using you for video, right? I mean, I was on the front lines.
Yeah, I think it was probably first or second year that I was doing it.
That's
I think
awesome.
I had the misfortune of using a DSLR for that job, which didn't work out so well for me. But those days have long gone.
Yeah.
So how much these days? How much are you doing stills versus video stuff? Like give us a percentage.
I think when I went through my invoices for tax time, I think it worked out to about 15% was stills.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You made the jump. Yeah.
Yeah, you're an actual DP now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Which is funny because when I tell people, when I explain director of photography, people automatically assume stills if they don't know the industry.
Ah, interesting.
Photography. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your story. How does an Australian end up in New York shooting pictures?
You'll have to ask my wife. I met an American girl when I was in high school and fell in love, and 10 years later moved over here to be with her, and I've been here ever since.
Love story. Gotcha.
It's like 20 years ago now.
So,
Gosh.
so in that journey, what was that like? I mean, there's a lot of people, maybe not unlike yourself, that are coming from other countries or other cities, and they're going to New York to chase the dream of the Big Apple. They want to, the lights, the camera, the action. It's one of our major production cities in the country. What was that like? And talk a little bit about, how do you get started, or how did you get your foot in the door? Talk about that.
So I already was, I'd moved, in Australia, I'd already moved on from being an assistant. I was shooting, had my whole career sort of mapped out, or at least I thought I did. And then I moved here, and I suddenly realized that coming here as a photographer was going to present a whole bunch of challenges. So I decided to step back and go back to assisting for a year or two. And it was without doubt the best decision I ever made. I mean, I got to know so many people, got to know the industry from the bottom up, got to know the city and, every street and every rental house and location and you name it. Some of those suppliers are different in the stills world to the video world, but it's more or less the same kind of thing. And after I felt like I'd learned enough, I then got into shooting, and I was in the stills thing for a long time.
So is that climate pretty competitive? I mean, when you first came in, was it just like a boom town, or was it like you had to really hustle?
No, it was crazy. There was so much work. I mean, there still is. New York being, the lowest ranked production city in your survey, It's I'm a little surprised. I mean, there's a huge amount of work, but there's also a huge amount of competition from people wanting to do that work. And, you know, a lot of it goes to people coming from outside of New York to shoot it. But then a lot of productions come here needing local people to shoot their productions. So, you know, there's an enormous amount of stuff going on here. And it's just a matter of, you know, like everything else, it boils down to personal relationships and, you know, doing good work with people you like, that you like being around, and then the word gets around, and you know that's how it works. It's the same in every city. It's not just New York.
Yeah, no doubt. So did you? What I want to know. So here's something I've always been curious about. Working in New York, are you like riding the subway with bags of gear? Are you hopping in taxis? Are you calling Uber? What are you doing? How do you get around?
I guess it all depends on the job. I mean, if I'm doing a job in a studio where camera and lighting and everything's in the studio, yeah, I just put a light meter and a few other bits and bobs in a satchel and ride the subway.
Nice.
If there are some jobs where I need to take like 1 or 2 Pelican cases and a tripod, you know, nothing big. I actually have a cargo bike that I transport my kids to and from school on, and I rip the seats off the back, and I can put 2 large Peli cases on the back with a tripod over the top, and I ride to some of my gigs. And I live at the top end of Central Park, and most of those gigs are in Midtown, so I get to ride through Central Park on my way to work. It's just awesome.
Hey, you gotta pack that thing up for us and snap a pic so we can share it, because that thing's pretty cool.
Yeah, I might have one
bike.
somewhere.
Yeah,
that sounds amazing.
So I have a story. So me and Angus were shooting. It was overnights at Grand Central Station.
Grand Central Terminal.
Yeah,
come on, Brad.
Grand Central Terminal. Sorry, and so he shows up and he gets out of a cab or something, and he's got like a rock and roller, and this thing is packed to the hilt. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh. I mean, there was so much gear that 2 guys had that came via like either Uber or Zipcar. I don't know what it was, but to answer your question, Alex, like that was one of the projects where I remember like, oh my gosh, like you guys took public transit with all this gear?
Well, yeah, because I know a lot of people don't own cars in New York because it's so expensive to park them, right?
Yeah.
So
it's
all about
$500 a month to park a car, and then you know you get to your location and you dump your gear. Then you've got to drive 3 blocks to find a parking garage. I mean, there's just no point. Much better using car service or cabs or whatever.
Well, so on that same note, I have a question. Do you, speaking of traveling with gear and stuff, do you own your own gear? Do you rent gear? Because we have a lot of people that do both, obviously.
Right. I no longer buy cameras for myself because they change so quickly. So I rent for every job. All the lenses that I use, I mean, they're all, for the ones that I'm using stills lenses, I use my Canon EF lenses. But, if I need real lenses, then they come with the camera as well.
Nice.
Cine lenses. And that's the beautiful thing about New York also, is that the rental rates for gear is significantly cheaper than a lot of other places. So, you can get a lot of camera for your money.
Yeah. Now, you guys got a lot, I mean, B&H and Adorama, they're all based out of New York, right?
Able Cine, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
and Able, yeah.
So in addition to those, there's probably other smaller shops. So there's, infinite resources when it comes to rental. But is that do you ever find like where, if all of a sudden it's a busy week or whatnot, like it's hard to get a hold of stuff, or is it just literally there's so many places to get from?
There's always gear available. Interestingly, I rent pretty frequently from Adorama. I have a bunch of friends who work there, and I find their prices and their service to be great. But they observe all of the Jewish public holidays, or the Jewish holidays.
Mm-hmm. It's like B&H, right?
Yeah, B&H.
Yeah, exactly. The same calendar as B&H.
How did they end up running the rental game?
I don't know. Those guys run the camera houses, and then back when I was in stills, it was all of the film developing houses were run by Indians, and it was just I guess they just got into it anyway. So the trick is if you have a production that's coming up and you've got some decent notice, you can always get the gear because they're going to be closed, and you get it ahead of their closing. But if you get a last minute job and they're closed, you've got to scramble and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So you need to be a little bit prepared.
Yeah. Do you ever do any like the lens rentals or the Lens Pro to go or any of those things?
I have. Yeah. In fact, I think I used some of that stuff on that job you were mentioning before, Brandon, the one at Grand Central. They are really great, and I think there are some. This is probably highly classified information, but I think there are some businesses like those guys coming into New York, which will mean that the turnaround, will be super fast and the prices will be great. So
yeah.
there are things happening in that space.
Man,
and I guess the other part sorry.
I was just saying, you must have the insider information.
I got connections. The other cool thing about the Jewish holiday thing is all of these rental houses that observe them, they want to get their inventory out. They don't want to be sitting on stuff for a 10-day holiday. So you can get a package for a 2-day rental for 10 days, 12 days, and if you want to go shoot some personal project and you've got it already prepped and you can make it happen in that holiday, you can do it for nothing. It's a really fantastic way to do stuff like that you ordinarily you wouldn't be able to afford to.
That's
nice.
cool.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
So speaking of gear, staying on the same kind of vein, same line, are you a fanboy of any particular company? You a Red guy, Canon guy, Arri?
The last year or so, I have been heading towards Sony just because a bunch of productions that I've worked on have used F5s. And just this last weekend, I've used a camera, the FS7, which I've used from time to time. And I have to say, in that price point, it is an amazing camera.
So many options, yeah.
Yeah. Shooting the Cine EI with the S-Log 3 profile, it's just, it's an incredible
Yeah, the range is
picture.
unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So let's talk a little bit about the type of work you're doing. So you made the transition. And you can hit on the transition as well. Was it a hard transition? Did it seem to be pretty natural? And how competitive is it, as a real working filmmaker in New York? I'm not talking about, being on a film or a TV show. I'm talking about, brand content, commercials, just good old working filmmaker type stuff. How hard is it to work there, or is it just like a hardcore grind, and then you've got the cost of living? I mean, let's just get into it. If I'm a listener and I'm saying, man, I'm going to move to New York and I'm going to do this thing, what do I need to know?
Gosh, where to begin? Well, like I said before, there's a huge amount of work. But for me, coming from my background, I already had a lot of corporate clients who saw the writing on the wall, all these mobile devices, and they decided they wanted to start incorporating motion into what they did. So that work came very easily. And then on top of that, through my sort of professional network of stills guys, they were also being asked by their clients to shoot video. And I'd have to say, the majority of them were freaked out and scared by it. And they would call me and say, Angus, can you shoot this for me? And so I had work just falling in my lap.
That's always nice.
And it was great. Some of it was boring and just, trash for cash, but some of it was really interesting. And so I still do a lot of that corporate sort of interview B-roll type of thing. I haven't shot any big commercials or anything like that. I mean, I suspect that's just a completely different market from where I am. And that's okay because, I have a young family and, for the most part, 1, 2, 3 day shoots is my comfort level. I like that level of activity. So
it sounds like, maybe the first point I'd pull out from that comment is, be willing to do the work. You were there was some guys who weren't willing, you were willing, and from that you've been able to get some jobs and build a network. Yeah,
for sure. And not only that, you may think that what you want to do is X, and then all of a sudden someone offers you Y, and you're like, that doesn't sound like something I would enjoy shooting. Well, you'd be crazy not to. And in the last couple of years, I've had weird and wonderful shoots where I was invited to shoot something and it worked out really well, and I loved it. I mean, I shot my first TV 2 or 3 months ago. You were telling me that we were texting.
Yeah, what is this? I want to hear about this.
So a friend of mine directs a show on the DIY network called Barnwood Builders. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah.
You know it?
I do, yeah. I'm real big into the DIY. We're getting ready to buy a home, sweet. So yeah.
Oh, well, so he asked me if I wanted to come shoot some of that. So it's a 2-camera show, and I was on B camera because it was my first time. And I had a blast. It was just spectacular.
Was it now? Is it like super run and gun? Give us a rundown. What was the location? What were you doing?
So we were down in northeastern Alabama, and
Yes.
they were that's just, it was fun. They're long days outside in whatever weather happened to show up, and we were very lucky. The weather was great, and they told me that I was super lucky, but I just figured whatever. But f5 with a Fuji 20 to 120, is that the lens? I'm trying to remember which one it is, but it's a fairly decent sized lens.
Is that the one with the zoom rocker on it, the servo?
You have the choice. Yeah, we ripped that off, and I just put a zoom lever on there just so I could have one finger on it.
Nice.
And then a couple of big batteries out the back. I actually used an easy rig for the first time because I was worried, being an old man, that I wasn't going to be able to put up with this monster camera on my shoulder all day.
Aren't those great inventions, the easy rig?
Yeah.
Well, they are, but so for standing still and shooting something, they are fantastic. But the minute you have to start to move your body around to change the shot, because of the way the weight is suspended, the camera wiggles a lot.
You get a bounce.
You get a rotational wiggle, and you don't really notice it so much when you're shooting it because you're moving. But they told me after they were reviewing the footage that they were getting seasick whenever I moved the camera around, because I would settle on whatever I was shooting and then move, and they would have to reach for the wastebasket.
Nice.
So
for our listeners who don't know, can you describe what an easy rig is?
It's like a backpack harness kind of thing that transfers the weight of the camera onto your hips by using a what do you call it? Like a boom, a crane thing that goes up and over your back, over your head, and then it has a counterweighted cable that hangs down to clip onto the top handle of the camera. So you balance it so the camera's weight is totally taken off your shoulder.
Yeah.
And they are a lifesaver. I don't think I could have done it without it. Mind you, the next time I go out with those guys, if they call me, which I'm hoping they will, I think I want to go just handheld because I think I'll be able to get around a scene much more quickly without worrying about that. So,
nice.
But it is, for a big heavy camera, it's a pretty spectacular piece of kit.
In northeastern Alabama, that's where the serpent handling churches were started.
Really?
Yeah, in those hills. That's the first. I forget the guy's name, but the first church was started. The guy who he was walking in those hills and came across a snake and felt the Lord call him to pick it up, and he tied it back to the passages and the Pentecost passages about being able to pick up serpents and not be harmed. And he was like, I guess I'll start a new sect of Christianity based on this, and then it kind of spread throughout Appalachia.
Interesting. I met some people down there that I could totally see doing that. It was a wonderful place. Such lovely people. I had a really great time.
That's fun. So you're doing some reality. What other stuff have you been getting into?
I hesitate to call that reality because it's not one of those nasty sniping things where the producers are constantly sort of egging people on to do horrible things. It's actually more just like a documentary. It was a lot of fun.
Very cool. Are you, what about some of the weirder stuff that's coming out? Like the VR, the 360, any of those things? You doing any of that?
No, not at all. And, I saw the new, was it the Nokia thing? That's got multiple cameras mounted on it.
Ozo, yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea how that works.
Well,
I'm sure it's incredible.
I don't know if they know how it works. When I went at NAB, I went over to their booth, and of course they had these, paid models that were all dressed in like duct tape, like tight silver
duct tape
outfits. And it was funny because everybody at NAB are just a bunch of nerds, so no one really cared about the girls. They were just like, let me see the camera. And the one girl was standing there because there's like no experts. And so I started asking questions, and her response was like, no one's asked me that question yet. And so it was just kind of like...
She was the product expert.
Yeah. So I couldn't really find out about the camera. And then there was this, they had where you could experience, they had the camera set up, and they was like, hey, you want to put on the VR thing and you can experience it live? And I'm like, yeah. So I put on the VR thing, and it was a black screen, and so I'm like, the screen's black, and they're like, just a second, and the screen was still black. Well, either way, it didn't work, so I just took off the headset, and I took the headset off, and I was like, okay,
it's VR blackness.
I'm out.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Here's the thing. I'm a skeptic. I will say though, there's a lot of people that are all in. One of which we're going to have on the show. He's from Leap Agency. His name's Drew, and Drew is the head of our technology division, and he chewed me out, me and you. He got on our case. He was like, "You guys don't know anything. You guys are talking, crap about VR." And so anyway, we're gonna have Drew on the show to talk the real story.
There was a photo posted recently of Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook walking like through thousands of people that were in chairs strapped into VR headsets, and it reminded me of The Matrix. Mm-hmm. That's our future, Angus, is just people sitting there staring off into a void.
Well, it's funny. I mean, the few times that I've seen this VR thing happening that has really captivated me was in the photojournalism realm, where you can, as the viewer, you can choose what part of the scene to take in. So, I guess it takes some of the authorship or whatever you want to call it out of the photography side of things. But as a content user, it's an amazing thing to be able to look around a scene like that is pretty incredible stuff.
I guess that's a good question. Where do you see that going? I mean, do you see it more as used in news media or training, or we have a debate here where I don't think it's going to be used in narrative at all.
Yeah, I can't see that either. I mean, I'm sure some Northern European director will find a use for it, but I would agree. I mean, I think, probably training, that kind of thing, where you want someone to basically be as close as you can be to somewhere without actually being there for training purposes. I think that's, perfect for that. But narrative, I don't see it.
Yeah. So sticking on this idea of production cities, is New York buzzing right now? Are you guys like electric with films and stuff? And is it kind of a slow period, or does it
seems to be busy?
Does it vary based on the seasons? Like, is the summer more booming, the winter slower? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think it's busy quite a lot of the year. I think the mayor's office of what's it called, the MOFTB, the mayor's office of film, TV, and broadcasting, they do a great job of promoting New York as a production city. Obviously not good enough given your survey, but so I'm always seeing trucks lining the streets. Yeah. And in fact, just earlier today, I was meeting a friend and colleague for lunch, and we agreed to meet at the sushi restaurant. And as I was riding my bike up, I texted him as I passed the light, and I said, "I'm here." And he said, "Hollywood beat us to it." And sure enough, our favourite sushi restaurant's been taken over by production for the day.
Wow.
Hey,
so anyway, but no, I think there's a lot of stuff going on. It's pretty busy.
Speaking of restaurants, I'm pretty sure I offended you in your ramen experience.
Oh yes.
Wait, what?
And I do recall what you said to it wasn't the chef. I think it might have been the maitre
What happened?
You got to tell.
I need some context.
Wait,
to this.
We'll tell the story together. I'll set up
I'll
set up the first half.
All
so,
right.
Angus. So we're hanging out. We wrap on set, and we're having a great time. We're hanging out, and Angus is like, "Oh, I want to take you to my favorite ramen place." And in New York, ramen's like the thing. It hasn't really made it to Cincinnati yet. In
Top
the Midwest,
ramen, like the 50-cent
Dude,
styrofoam cup stuff?
No. It's like ramen, like magical chef. It's crazy. So he's making a big deal about ramen, and I'm like, come on, ramen. So I'm like, let's do this. So he takes me to this ramen place, and it starts off amazing. You go in there, people are yelling, and they introduce you when you sit down. They're like, "Hey everybody, Joe and Shelly are getting ready to experience ramen." And then everybody in the room yells like, "Yay, ramen." Like, it's the craziest thing ever.
Whoa.
And so anyway, we go, I'm loving it. We had some bourbon while we're waiting. We get in, it's like the fanciest ramen place.
We had sake.
Yeah, we were drinking sake. And
Japanese bourbon.
We get in there, and
rice wine.
People yell, they cheer us on when we sit down, and I'm so excited. Yeah. And at this point, I ask Angus, what should I get? And I'll let him tell the rest of the story and how it unfolded.
Well, I'm not sure if I remember exactly the same part as you, because clearly we'd had some sake by this point. But I do remember saying you should just order what they suggest as like their classic thing, and so he does, and we eat it, and he's not overwhelmed like most of the people I take to these kinds of places. And bear in mind, I think this was one of the better ones in the city, and I was really proud to take him there. And we actually got a seat without waiting for 2 hours, which is incredible. And I think we paid and we were leaving, and then, oh, that's right. No, we stopped by the bar on the way out. The man behind the bar who had very kindly given us a bunch of sake beforehand, and he said, "So what did you think?" And what did you say?
Brandon's lackluster response.
Just like my grandmother's chicken noodle soup. Something like that.
I said it tastes like Campbell's chicken noodles.
Oh, that's what it was.
Oh,
And there was this silence around the room.
my God.
It was bad.
It did,
I
though.
haven't been back since. I haven't been back to that
They
place.
banned you.
Embarrassed. All the love and craftsmanship that went into that ramen, and you call it Campbell's chicken noodle soup.
That's what happens, man. You give me sake, I'm just going to be
Did you ask for the recipe and ask how long they microwaved it?
No.
I mean,
But I will say it was a great moment. Anytime I get to hang out with Angus, it's great. So that was really fun. But you did take us to that really cool coffee shop, your buddy's coffee place, and that was awesome.
Which one?
what'd you say? It tastes just like Folgers?
Just the tiny. There was like a
good one, Alex. Yeah, no, that'd be
yeah.
fine.
No, it was a tiny little place. You took me. It was me, you, and Rosie.
Oh yeah,
And that was great.
Yes.
We love
Well,
that
so
place.
that's one of the great things about New York production is that you're never that far from good coffee anymore. Thanks to
Yeah.
the Australians who moved here in 10 years ago. Like there's really good coffee here,
Yeah.
which comes in handy.
Is coffee an Australian thing?
Serious coffee is a particularly Australian thing, actually. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
I learned something today.
yeah.
Cool.
That's great.
Cool. Hey, well, so I got a question about New York production.
Okay.
Do you guys have tax incentives like we do here? Is that a big deal or a determining factor in what kind of productions you get or work on?
That's probably out of my pay scale. I'm not sure. I bet there probably are.
Yeah.
Because I think, most states are fairly aggressive in sort of promoting that sort of stuff. But I know that they're contentious. And so, actually, again, it's not the sort of stuff I shoot, so I don't.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Let me ask you this. So let's get into like some real world stuff. So let's say I'm a young filmmaker and I'm wanting to make the jump. I want to live in New York. I want to work in New York. I don't have a ton of experience, but I'm ready to grip or I'm ready to be a PA for a guy like you. What are you looking for? What do you want out of these kids, out of these young filmmakers in New York? What do you want to see? What's going to make you hire them again and again?
I want their phone to stay in their pocket. And yeah, my best assistant experience has been an ex-Marine who just refused to leave my side until I told him to go take a break.
Wow.
And I see the opposite of that in a lot of kids that we work with, that they're only too happy to get on Instagram or whatever and tell the world about the cool thing that they're doing that day, but they're not actually there when you really need them to reach out a hand and grab something or whatever.
Hashtag camera porn. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a good insight. So, those of you listening, no matter where you're going, be ready to work.
Be attentive.
Jump in there and get ready to make things happen.
Yeah.
As you're moving about the city, I mean, is it hard to find studios? If I know we've shot in a couple different places, with Sykes and stuff like that. Are people, fighting to get a hold of, cyc walls and green screens? Talk a little bit about.
There's a bunch of stuff. I mean, right from the very smallest sort of, 20 by 20 type green screen pre-lit studios, there's a bunch of them, and then it goes up from there. And in fact, I recall one of the jobs that we were going to do, we needed to park a truck on a white cyc. And, that's the end of production scale is where studios are actually booked out months in advance for TV shows and whatnot. So actually doing a one-off shoot of that scale is actually more challenging than you would think because there aren't that many huge spaces for that kind of thing. But I think you created some crafty way around having to get a truck on the set. Can't remember what it was, but I know we didn't need to do it.
Yeah, we figured it out. So
there's a huge number of studios at every budget range. There'll be the places that have really good lighting and grip, and there are the places that have like nasty little battery-powered LED stuff on rickety stands, and you don't want to go near them. But if that's all the budget calls for, then you make it work.
Yeah, I know the place we shot at. I forget the name of it, but the one guy he got hit by the flood, right?
Oh, I bet he did.
The little place,
City Magic, the one that's down in the basement. Yeah,
it's in Soho, right?
Yeah,
yeah. I remember that. Did the flood? Did that storm? What kind of an impact did that have on the production industry? Do you describe what was that like for you? I mean, you didn't get hit too bad, right? Because you were.
No, we live uptown. I don't. I actually don't know. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I'm sure that quite a few people were affected, and I'm sure some of the sort of long-term productions were affected just by lack of power and transportation, all that sort of stuff. But that's a good question. I really don't know.
Interesting. Well, so we have a few questions on the show. One of which I want to ask right now is, what are you working on? What are you currently doing, or what do you have coming up in the next few weeks? That
Yeah,
you're working
and if
on?
you can't say it, just use a code word or something like
Yeah.
that.
Right. No, actually, I'm working with a couple of different production companies who are really aggressively trying to make new shows and web content happen. So a bunch of the stuff that I've done recently and will be doing over the next little while is development stuff, which is great because they're always willing to do things differently or, push the envelope and, listen to my ideas and all that sort of stuff, and that's great. But the bummer of it is that quite often this stuff can never be seen. So in fact, I did some stuff with our mutual friend Joe a couple of months ago, and I was really proud of it. It looked really fantastic, but it was for a pitch, and it'll never be seen, and I can't show it.
Isn't that the worst?
Wow.
I mean, we've all got projects like that. I
I've
think
got a
people
few,
do.
yeah.
It's like, oh, I did this really cool thing. I can't really
put it
talk
up
about it
here.
or show it.
Are you talking about, so what kind of projects are you talking? Can you say that? Like scripted narrative or reality?
This was like a very short-paced scripted thing. It was a pitch for some Snapchat business. And so, one of the wrinkles in this was that it had to be shot vertically because, Snapchat is 9 by 16, not 16 by 9. So I had to rig a camera on its side and, make that work in a handheld setting, which was a pain in the rear. But it was a lot of fun to shoot. And so it was, 6 or 8 setups in a day and, working fast, but having a lot of fun. It was really wonderful work. And Joe is a great director for that kind of stuff. He makes good, quick decisions and his instincts are right.
Yeah, I was so happy to connect you guys because I met Joe at the documentary filmmaker festival in Toronto, and
the past one?
It was the year we did Venom and Fire, the rattlesnake.
So was I there?
Yeah, you were there.
Huh.
No, you may have had to. You were getting married or something. I don't know. Something happened.
I left.
You had to fly home. I'm not sure.
I had a job.
Yeah, you had a
that's
job.
right.
But anyway, we met Joe, and they ended up getting Best Picture, and we were like, man, we clearly had the best picture. But anyway, so at the meetup afterwards where we were all drinking, we met Joe and Julia and just immediately clicked, and it was just great. And they were like, oh man, you guys should have won. And and we were like, no, you guys deserved it. It was pretty awesome because their film was great. And immediately we hit it off. And the thing that bonded me and Joe forever is that we both love, and our favorite film is Point Break, the original. And we were probably a little drunk, but we were like quoting them. We basically acted out the whole movie in a bar in Toronto that night.
I was there.
It was.
I remember.
Yeah,
this.
it was amazing.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've just kept in touch with Joe. And anytime I'm in New York, in addition to hanging out with Angus, I always try to connect with Joe. And one day I was like, man, you guys need to get connected. And then I kind of emailed you and connected you. And then I'm so happy to see that you guys have actually hung out and done work together.
Yeah, and there's a couple of other projects in the offing that I can't talk about. So
I think I might be a part of one of these. Like he.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, Joe was saying he's going to try to bring us into the mix, maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we'll see. How awesome would that?
Interesting.
That'd be cool.
That would be a lot of fun.
So, and that's the thing. If you're listening to the show, here's the real thing you need to know. It's about relationships. I didn't know Angus at all, and it was a cold call based on a need, and he pulled through for me, and he allowed me to shine for my client. Through that, we had chemistry, and we've built a friendship. And the same with Joe, and that's how you work. That's how nowadays, if somebody asks me, can I shoot something in New York, I never hesitate. Because I have a network in New York through relationships who I know are going to pull through and get it done. And I think that's what it's about. So, as we spend this month talking about production cities, no matter what city you're in, the most important thing is focusing on building great relationships with people who are legitimate, reliable, who are actually doing work, and who you can trust.
Your network is your net worth.
There you go.
Yeah. And I guess going back to what you were saying about up-and-coming people trying to get work, don't forget the value of just common courtesy. So I got an email from an assistant, a second AC from a job, who said, really enjoyed working on the job with you. He asked a question about some other project that I was working on. And, I'd love to work with you again. And, not many people actually go to the trouble of doing that. And it stuck with me. And so the next gig that I needed to crew, guess who I called? And it really works.
The nice guy.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome. Well, the other question we always ask is, what are you watching? So, what are you into, man? I mean, I know you're working. You got, little kids. I mean, how old's your daughter now?
She's 8. Well, she'll be 8 in a couple of weeks.
You know that my son's 7. Like they could be a thing. We could set this up.
That's all right. It works.
We actually talked about going to New York this year, and then we switched to Disney. But I think maybe next year.
Well, if you want to do it, there's a person in my building who rents their apartment dirt cheap, and it would be great to have you in the building.
That would be amazing. So we'll have to set that up. So
you can go to ramen places every night.
But that would I just think it'd be so much fun. I think our Nash and her would have a ton of fun, and actually we could all go out to dinner because my 13-year-old could babysit.
And Grace could sing every Casey Chambers song known to man.
Whoa.
Nice, yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, so
what am I watching?
what are you into?
Most recently, we don't have cable because I don't have time or money for that. I have been watching a documentary series on Netflix called Cooked by Michael Pollan. Mm-hmm. Have you seen it? Know about it?
Know about it. Haven't seen it.
I watched the other food series.
The Chef's Table.
Chef's Table.
Mind?
Yeah. Chef's Table on Netflix was really good.
Right.
But I've seen Cooked, and it's in my queue. Tell us about it.
It's it's based on his book. And I'm really into food because I used to shoot a lot of food when I was doing stills, and got to meet a lot of really interesting chefs and hear about interesting food stories. But Michael Pollan has some pretty compelling things to say about food, and this is just beautifully filmed. He presents well, and whoever shoots it does an amazing job. There's little bits of slow-mo in there, but it's not gratuitous. It's just beautiful. So, frankly, if there's anyone out there listening, this is my self-promotion bit, but I would like to shoot something like Cooked one day. That would make me very happy indeed.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So
that's the way it's going, man, is the Netflix and the Hulu and the Amazon. It's those original series,
Yeah. No, that's where the money is, for sure.
Yeah.
That's cool. Awesome, man.
Very cool. Well,
so that's what's most recent on the list, and, with young kids, that's all I can remember, really.
do you do like Brandon, a lot of animated series and stuff for your kids?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the last one. Iron Giant. We just had that one.
Oh, dude, Iron Giant's awesome.
Just spectacular.
That's the best movie.
Brad Bird, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that movie.
Man.
It was a hard one to get my daughter to watch because she was a little freaked out by the electrocution of the robot. But once she got over that, she just fell in love with it.
That's one that's good for kids, good for adults. Yeah. Everybody can take something different away from it.
Yeah, me and Nash are big fans of that.
Wow. So
that's cool. What are you watching, Alex?
What am I watching? I haven't watched a lot recently. We watched, I've already seen it in theaters, but I rented Hateful Eight.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, so Tarantino.
It's fun.
Yeah, but we watched about half of it before Kristen lost interest.
It is long and drawn out.
She couldn't get into it. Yeah. She thought it was cheesy. She thought the acting and the writing, and I'm like, well, this is Tarantino. Like, you got to...
They say doppelganger.
Exactly. She couldn't do it. So, what about you, man?
Well, we're caught up on The Path on Hulu. Angus, have you seen The Path?
I have not.
It's kind of they're basically following the storyline, a little bit of Scientology and sort of the characters of the main Scientology dude. Yeah, David Miscavige, and there's actually Jesse from Breaking Bad is one of the main characters, and he's in this sort of cult-like sort of setting, and then all of a sudden he has an epiphany that, oh my gosh, I don't believe this anymore, and now he's stuck between like getting out, but yet his family's still like all in. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fun. We're watching that. We're watching.
Ooh, I got another one. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
It just started again. Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay.
Which you haven't started.
I'm not gonna watch that.
Because you're not a big Robes
I'm
guy.
not watching it.
I want to know your reasons for that, Brandon. Because I feel like I'm in your camp.
I don't like robes, Angus. I've told you this before.
It's a ridiculous reason.
Any movie with robes, I just don't really like. Like, if you have wizards and robes,
Brandon's
anything
a robe
like
racist.
that, I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Really?
Yeah. And you know who else agrees with me is
No one. That's who.
Our friends from
Whipster.
Yeah, Whipster. The kids over in Auckland and Wellington.
Yeah.
So
Boo.
they
agree with you?
Yeah.
Because I mean, robes pay a significant part of the Wellington economy.
Exactly. And he said,
Lord of the Rings.
Rollo said that although Lord of the Rings is a huge thing, he said that everyone in New Zealand, or the NZ as they call it, they don't really care about it. So anyway,
weird.
But yeah, that's why, man. I just don't get it. It's just not. It's not my thing.
Yeah. Well, to switch things up a bit, speaking about Whipster, we were just out at NAB.
Yeah.
Hung out with them at the booth. There was a lot of new gear. Not really a lot of new gear, but there was new gear. Angus, are you excited about anything? Specifically gear, specifically movies? What are you excited about?
Well, one standout for me that I think fits perfectly with the kind of work I do and where I came from is the new Canon 18 to 80 Cine lens. It's just perfect. It's $5,000, which is a bargain for a Cine lens, but it's amazing optical performance, good sized package.
But it's slow, isn't it?
Yeah, but cameras are so sensitive these days, and
especially
frankly, every time I shoot wide open, I want to shoot myself in the head. So the fact that it's a T4 or something like that, I could care less.
And you're on you said you're shooting FS7 or F5, so you're at like 1250, 2000 ISO, right?
Yeah. So it makes no difference. And in fact, the availability of that lens and the fact that I'm sure Canon is going to make more lenses like that, they'll probably make a longer zoom at some point. As Brandon knows, I have shot a bunch of stuff on the Canon C series, and having that lens as a native EF mount on a C300 Mark II, I think would be a pretty amazing package. So I'm actually going to start playing with that camera a little bit more to see whether that's something that I might actually like to possibly buy.
Let's talk a little more about this lens, because I have the C100 Mark IIs, and I love them.
The lens covers
18 to 80?
It basically covers the full set of a prime set if you would rent one.
Pretty much.
I think that's what it's designed to do, is be a full set of primes in a zoom.
Yep.
Wow.
And obviously not as wide open, but not such a big deal anymore.
No doubt.
That sounds kind of interesting.
What else? What else have you heard out there that you're excited? Are you, looking into the black magic stuff? Have you just completely discounted that?
It's funny. I was just having this conversation at lunchtime with this friend, and I have to like black magic because they're from Melbourne, like me. And I actually did know Grant Petty back in the days when he was working in a post house developing all these amazing products way back in ancient history. I think as a company, they are really starting to hit their straps. They are no longer falling into the trap of announcing things that aren't available for a year and horrible firmware upgrades and problematic things. I think some of their stuff is really pretty amazing. I actually wish that I'd been at NAB this year for things like that.
We would have
had a good time if you were there.
You would have been at our meetup where Brandon did some dance moves, lost all his money.
We'll have to talk about this when Whipster's on the show. They're going to be our June partner, but the guys from Whipster, we hung out with them late one night, and
those New Zealanders.
Yeah. So Whipster's a video review platform where you upload videos and you can make comments on the annotated video. Well, I get a link sent from Andre at Whipster, and he's like, "Hey, I need you to review this video." And of course, it's me trying to break dance at like 5 a.m. Obviously, I've had quite amount of bourbon at that point.
Bar. Yeah, double down.
It was so funny because Alex and Rollo and everybody's chiming in, making comments on the annotated video of like they're critiquing my moves. It was the most amazing use of Whipster ever.
Yeah.
Actually, now I'm glad I didn't come to NAB.
You would have been on that video review site.
That makes a lie of what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it comes home with you.
Yeah, it's definitely
especially
coming
when you
home.
got Whipster. Anyway,
that's fun.
What about cameras though? Like, have you been, have you ever worked with some of the Red stuff, some of the Aries stuff?
I've worked with Red up until the most recent, fantastically named versions of their cameras.
Yeah.
I haven't really dipped back into Red since then. It was mainly the old MX and then the Epic. And I liked them. I think I got frustrated by I guess it's the software, just having to reboot constantly,
usability.
Those things just drove me crazy because it would always happen at the worst possible time. It wasn't at the start of the day when you were building the camera. It was right when everything was ready to go. And it's just...
So the software's built for.
Life's too short for that kind of aggravation, I think.
I get you. Now, I share a similar mindset. I like ease of use and reliability. So
Yeah.
that's cool, man.
Well, I'll tell you what, this has been so awesome. I think the cool thing I love about this show is that we're, the community and the connections. One of the things I wanted to do is I want to make a major announcement with you on the show, if that's all right.
Golly.
Is that good?
Is this the announcement where I get to qualify as a listener and win a Cineo light?
No. You do not get the Cineo light. You're one of our guests, man. You're like you're ineligible.
Yeah.
No, but if I listen to the podcast,
yeah,
I'm a listener.
Exactly.
You can't change that.
Yeah.
All right, make your announcement.
So here's the thing. So the reason I think now is a great time to announce this is, I really appreciate my friendship with Angus and the work we've done in the past. And I think this idea of networking is so important as we talk about production cities, as we talk about doing work together. Mm-hmm. That's why we're testing. We beta tested with a group from NAB, an FDB community, and we are launching
on Slack
officially right now. We are launching a FDB podcast Slack group. Slack is a platform that allows you to communicate. It's trending hugely right now. It's doing really well. And it's real time, so people are on there, and it's like a chat. It's like a forum, but it's a chat, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got some members on there right now. You can hop on there. Go to fdbpodcast.com. We'll have a link on the banner. We might call it probably the tab will be called Community.
Yeah.
Click on that and request an invite. This is an invite-only community. We really want to make sure that who is in the community are real working filmmakers, people that are legitimate. And really sort of foster and respect sort of the craft and just curate the community a little bit.
So you will be vetted.
You will be vetted. Nathan Rogers, who's actually from Nebraska, is a listener, and he knows the platform really well. And he volunteered, and I said, hey, you seem to know this really well. Would you mind sort of curating and running the Slack group? And he said, absolutely. So if you go, once you get in, it's kind of an exclusive community, but you'll find a couple different channels. There's the FDB podcast channel. If you go in there, that's where you go to talk about what's been talked about on the show. If you want to chime in on the conversation, you can go to that channel. There's a channel for cinematography, one for editing. There's the green room. The green room is where, just general hanging out conversations happen. There's an introductions channel and a reels channel where you can post your reel and get feedback from other filmmakers that's constructive to help you get better. So this is a really cool thing. We're going to see where it goes. We've got a great group of people on there now, but we'd love to encourage all listeners to do that. So go to fdbpodcast.com, look for the Slack community, and I want to personally invite you, Angus, to be a part of this community.
I'd love to. I've heard a lot about Slack, and I've never had the opportunity to use it. So
awesome.
This will be great.
Well, I will send you the invite, my friend.
And I do Slack very well.
Nice. So this is cool. So anything else, Angus, that people need to know about you? One thing I want to give an opportunity is, how do people find you? I mean, you do great work, and there's probably listeners here that are like, hey, I'm actually shooting next week. It would be great to have a DP in New York. How do people find you? How do we get in touch with you? Go for it.
My website, angusoborn.com, is currently under construction because I had some issues with the previous provider. But, it's got all my contact info there for sure.
Okay.
And gosh, I'm always up for interesting projects. That's
are
for sure.
Are you on the social medias at all? Are you on Instagram or Twitter?
I dabble.
Get on there, man.
But I have performance anxiety with Instagram because it's got to be perfect.
No.
So it ends up just being random stuff of kids and silly things. But
So is your username Angus
Oborn? Yeah,
okay,
I'm pretty imaginative when it comes to usernames.
So if you're out there listening, at Angus Oborn on Twitter, Instagram, the internet's angusoborn.com. As always, any of the guests on the show, feel free to email us at FDB Podcast. We can get you connected. These are all people that we know, obviously, because they've been on the show. So we're super excited. Any other thoughts or encouragement, or what do you think, man? You've listened to the show a couple times. You've now been on the show. Should we keep doing this or what?
Yeah, I don't know. It's wonderful. No, I love it. I actually haven't listened to it for a couple of months, but when you first went live, I was listening to every one, and I thought it was great. I'm just jealous that I don't get to drink your bourbon.
That's true. Well, I'll
But
tell you
I'll
what.
have
We'll
you
have to
know
have you
that
down.
the bourbon I'm drinking is even better than yours.
What?
No, not really.
So you know what, the 1792 is really good. So, well, I'll tell you what, man, we're super excited. We're glad you joined us for the show. It really means a lot, and you've given the listeners a lot of insight. Make sure you guys check him out, angusoborn.com. Hopefully we'll get to work together soon, man.
That would be wonderful. That'd be great.
Alex, anything else?
No, man. It's great speaking with you as always. I can't wait to finally meet you at some point.
We'll come out to Cincinnati in the summertime. How about that?
Yeah,
There you
we
go.
need to make that happen.
Sounds good, man.
And just so you know, there has been some developments to the poll,
Oh,
and New York has dropped.
Oh, what?
come on.
What is the best filmmaking production city on our poll? And New York has dropped to 9%, Chicago at 18%, LA has dropped to 36%, and the number one is actually
Other.
What?
I wonder if they're talking about Atlanta, New
So,
Orleans. Yeah,
a
maybe.
lot of people representing their small town like us here in Cincy. So what are you
Nice.
gonna do?
Hey,
So, but we love New York. We love you, Angus. Thanks for coming on the show. And
thanks for inviting me. I had a lot of fun. It's good
thanks,
to
man.
chat.
And to all the listeners out there, remember, check out 1792. It's a tasty bourbon.
Yeah.
Be sure to enter the FDB podcast giveaway. You need to tweet at Cineo Lighting,
Yes.
at FDB podcast,
and use a hashtag.
hashtag FDB giveaway, and you could win.
Boom, a matchstick.
It's like $500.
It's crazy.
mean,
It's
this
a
is
tiny
They are
little
great lights.
remote phosphor.
yeah, this is the kind of thing that
light.
Angus is trying to get right now,
Yeah.
and you're
Dude, I want one.
Yeah, you're going to be entered to win for free. So, spread the word.
But you got
It's a
the
lot
whole
of fun.
month to do it.
Yeah.
So you got 4 weeks.
The whole month. So, thanks for listening. If you get a chance, go to iTunes, give us a rating and review. That really helps us out.
Yeah.
And
join our Slack community.
Join the community.
Here we go.
All right. Cheers, guys.
All right. Cheers, Angus.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Later. This podcast was recorded live at Sound Images Studio. Find out more at soundimages.com.